Do you even know what time it is? You haven't done any cleaning or cooking. Just sleeping all day. What a life you have as a housewife.
Robert grabbed my arm and forced me to stand up, slipping his arm under my armpit to lift me. In my dazed state, I tried to explain, "I'm not feeling well," but he dragged me down the stairs and ordered me to clean the wet entrance. "I'm sorry, but I really have a headache today."
Don't talk back to me, you useless housewife. If you don't like it, leave.
After leaving with the words, "I'm going out to eat," Robert drove away, and I started cleaning the wet entrance on all fours. Suddenly, I lost my balance and fell face first onto the floor. The front door opened abruptly. It was my daughter, Ashley. She was shocked to see me collapsed in the entrance and immediately asked, "What happened? Are you okay?" With tears streaming down my face, I explained everything to Ashley at the entrance. "It's my fault. I can't support your father who works so hard."
What are you talking about? Leaving a sick mom like this and going out is a problem beyond just working hard.
Ashley got divorced a few years ago and now lives in an apartment nearby. I'm fed up with my husband's lack of compassion. But I can't imagine how to live without his income.
Mom, I have a good idea for you.
Really? My name is Lisa Smith. Since my only daughter Ashley became independent, I've been living with my husband Robert. Robert runs a small electrical contracting business and hardly ever takes a break. We use the second floor of our house as our living space, while the first floor serves as his office, blending work into our daily lives. Even during dinner, Robert always has his phone with him, and he prioritizes work calls even when we're out as a family. Whenever we pass by newly built convenience stores or commercial facilities in the neighborhood, he proudly says,
"I did the electrical work here."
Robert truly loves his job and has no hobbies to speak of. Perhaps because our child is a girl, he didn't know how to relate to her, and since she was in middle school, he showed little interest and hardly spoke to her. Eventually, Ashley got accepted into a prestigious university for electrical engineering far from home and started living on her own. Although it was financially challenging to cover her tuition and living expenses, Robert worked hard and managed to support her, even while complaining. When I offered to take a part-time job to ease our financial burden, Robert stopped me with a displeased attitude.
You've been a housewife ever since we got married, right? With such a long gap, there's no way you can work properly now. I don't want to deal with the hassle of such an adventure later on.
I found myself agreeing with him. Indeed, I've been a housewife ever since Ashley was born. Robert used to say,
"Until the company gets on track, we'll have to endure some hardships. Support my adventure, which I call a challenge."
He would leave our small apartment for work, leaving me and our young daughter behind. It's been a long time since then, but I still remember it sometimes. When we first got married, Robert had just started his own business as a sole proprietor, and things weren't going well. I spent a lot of time alone with our daughter. My young daughter would always draw anime and manga illustrations and show them to me. She loved drawing in elementary school and middle school, and in high school, she joined the art club and even tried her hand at oil painting. Unfortunately, Ashley's drawings never won any major contests. I felt sad when Ashley decided to give up on her talent and chose to go to a university for electrical engineering, a field where she could gain practical skills. As I looked at her watercolor paintings left in her room after she moved out for college, Robert spoke to me from behind.
She's a smart kid. I thought she might say something adventurous like wanting to become an artist, but she didn't have any crazy ideas and went to college. Oh, and come down to the office later. There's a lot of paperwork piling up.
I quietly replied, "Okay," and went downstairs to the office. After organizing the cluttered items and documents, I started doing small office tasks like filing receipts. While in the office, Robert was mostly making sales calls, but in between, he would say to me, "Get me some coffee." In 30 seconds. I quickly put instant coffee powder in a cup and poured hot water from the thermos. When I handed the cup to Robert, who was glaring at his computer, he gave me a strange compliment. 28 seconds, not bad. The office phone rang, and after a while, Robert hurriedly put on his jacket and left in his car. While organizing documents in the empty office, I found a pink flower petal between the papers. I casually looked out the window. Beyond the warm sunlight, there was a clear view of the main street. In the park beyond, a large cherry blossom tree was in full bloom. It was less than 600 feet away, and I wanted to go closer to admire it, but I couldn't leave the office. I needed to answer the phone in my husband's absence. Including dealing with visitors, my husband severely restricted my outings and encouraged me to use online delivery services for shopping. I really wanted to go out somewhere or take a walk freely outside, but seeing my husband working so hard made me feel guilty for even thinking about it. When my husband returned from somewhere, he threw his jacket at me and said, "Iron this," then took a sip of the coffee left on his desk.
It's lukewarm. What is this? Make a new coffee. In 30 seconds.
Since there was no hot water left in the pot, I put the kettle on the stove. Leaning back deeply in his chair, my husband muttered,
I drove by the park earlier. The cherry blossoms were beautiful.
I looked at the cherry blossom tree visible beyond the window once more. I suddenly thought, it's already spring. And then, it's spring again. The moment I saw the cherry blossoms signaling the arrival of spring, I was filled with deep emotion. Just yesterday, it felt like winter with the cold air lingering. When I opened the window, the warm air flowed in, and I was struck by how quickly time passes, leaving me at a loss for words. Watching the cherry blossom petals dance in the wind far away, a sense of loneliness spread in my heart. Spring, a season that should be bright with my daughter's successful college admission and new life, only brought me sadness.
It's been more than 30 seconds. You know?
Thinking about the seasons that passed without feeling them, I felt helpless, but I handed the cup to my husband with a calm expression, saying, "Sorry." A few weeks later, when I casually looked out the window, the view had already become ordinary, and I continued organizing documents with an empty feeling. Such days continued for many years. The refreshing spring breeze and blooming cherry blossoms, the summer sunshine and cold ice cream, the autumn foliage and harvest season, and the winter snow scenery and warm hot pot dishes. Year after year, I spent my days busily. The word fulfilled became ambiguous, whether positive or negative, as I just lived each day desperately, and only when I closed my eyes at night in bed did I feel a deep sense of relief. Before I knew it, I was in my 50s. One day, it rained heavily. It wasn't the rainy season yet, but it had been raining continuously since morning. For some reason, I've always had migraines when it rains. That day, My head hurt so much that I decided to lie down in bed. I couldn't answer the phone calls coming into the office and just kept sleeping in bed. Eventually, a loud noise at the front door woke me up, but my body felt heavy, and I couldn't get up, so I kept my eyes closed. I heard my husband coming up the stairs from the front door, and he roughly opened the bedroom door where I was.
Hey! What's going on here?
I tried to respond, but my throat was clogged, and I started coughing. Then my husband forcefully pulled off my blanket and shouted again in a strong tone.
Do you know what time it is? Cleaning, cooking. You're just sleeping soundly. What a nice life you have as a housewife.
Wait a minute, my head hurts.
If I have a headache, can I take a day off work? If I take a day off, who will earn the money? I can't take a break. So you shouldn't take a break for something like that. Your job is housework, right?
My husband grabbed my arm and forcibly pulled me up, putting his arm under my armpit to make me stand. In my dazed state, I told him, I'm not feeling well, but he forcibly dragged me down the stairs and pointed to the front door.
It's pouring outside, so the entrance is soaking wet, right? There was dirt on the stairs and in the living room too, so at least clean the floors.
My head, it feels like it's splitting.
Lisa, I come home from work, not from playing around. You can't cook, you can't clean. How is this a marriage? Cleaning is the only thing you're good at, so at least do that properly.
I'm sorry, but my head really hurts today.
Don't you dare talk back to me. You stay at home wife. If you don't like it, then leave.
Leaving a parting shot that he'd go to a nearby burger joint for dinner, my husband got in the car and drove off. Despite the severe headache, I went up and down the stairs several times, carefully wiping my husband's wet and dirty boots at the entrance and drying the floor. At one point, I felt nauseous and had to stay in the bathroom. After the nausea subsided, I returned to the entrance, grabbed a rag, and got down on all fours. Tears began to flow uncontrollably. Large tears fell onto the wet entrance floor, and as I instinctively covered my face with my left hand, I lost my balance and collapsed face first onto the entrance floor. Suddenly, the front door opened. It was my daughter, Ashley. She was shocked to see me collapsed at the entrance and immediately asked, "What happened? Are you okay?" I explained everything to her, my face crumpled with tears. It's my fault. I can only do cleaning and housework, and I can't support your father who works so hard.
What are you talking about? Leaving a sick mom behind and going somewhere is a problem beyond just working hard.
Ashley quickly wiped the entrance with a rag. She told me to rest, but I felt bad about it, so I went to the kitchen, put the kettle on, and made some tea we received as a Christmas gift. The small clock in the kitchen showed it was already 7 p.m. My husband would probably go to a bar after eating burgers and wouldn't come home until late at night. If I didn't stay up until around 11 p.m., he would get angry again. As I let out a small sigh, Ashley, who had cleaned the entrance, started washing her hands in the kitchen. Sorry, Ashley. Did you come for something today?
Mom, you always get migraines and feel unwell on rainy days. I was just worried about you.
Ashley quickly dried her hands and checked the contents of the refrigerator. After thinking for a few seconds, she took out some ingredients and prepared a cutting board and knife.
I'm hungry, so I'll make something. You can eat too, right?
Ashley, yes, please. Ashley, with her perfect smile, beamed at me. She got divorced a few years ago and now lives in an apartment nearby. I couldn't ask her, who has no children, to move back home because it was clear she would clash with her father if she did. Ashley quickly made some soup. The taste was different from the recipes I had taught her. It was a taste I didn't know. Feeling truly relieved, I murmured, "Delicious, Ashley," sitting across the table, gently placed her hand on mine.
Mom, I don't think getting divorced was a mistake, and I'm glad I did it. So, if your current life is hard, I want you to know that divorce is an option.
I can't. It's impossible. I haven't worked in years. Even though Ashley mentioned divorce, in my mind, it was a word that referred to something happening in a distant world, and I couldn't imagine myself divorcing my husband. It's not that I'm completely satisfied with my current life. I'm fed up with my husband's lack of compassion towards me. But I can't imagine how to live without his income.
In that case, I have a good idea.
I couldn't imagine how to earn an income if I got divorced, so Ashley's words, "I have a good idea," made my eyes light up. Ashley looked at her watch and said, "Why don't you come to my apartment?" Maybe I was tired. Even though I felt like I would be a burden to my daughter, seeing her cheerful smile made me desperately want to take her hand. It felt like I was getting a one-way ticket to an adventure I had always dreamed of. The next day, I woke up in Ashley's apartment. It was already late morning. I hurriedly got up and saw Ashley humming while hanging laundry on the balcony. "Sorry, Ashley, for sleeping so late."
It's okay, Mom. You were really tired.
I got out of bed and put my hands on my hips. The migraine that had hurt so much yesterday and my chronic back pain were both gone. I had never slept more than 6 hours since getting married. I was surprised that just being away from my husband allowed me to sleep more than twice as long as usual. Ashley handed me a cup of coffee and sat down next to the bed.
Dad called earlier. He was angry that you left the house without permission. I told him you seemed unwell, so I brought you here, but he wouldn't listen. It was frustrating.
Ashley, looking dejected, opened the curtains. From her second-floor apartment, I could see the park that was visible from my house. Nearby elementary school children were running around the park, laughing. Watching the children play happily outside the window, I said to Ashley, "You know, I think I should go back. Realistically, it's too difficult, especially with the money situation."
I thought the same thing before I got divorced. It's scary for anyone.
When I looked at her with a puzzled expression, Ashley smiled sadly. After that, I decided to rely on Ashley's kindness for a while. I wanted to believe in her words. I have a good idea. A week passed. I took care of the household chores for Ashley, who worked from home as an illustrator. I had assumed she was working in the electrical field since she studied it in college, so I was surprised to learn that she earned her income through illustration.
But the computer I use is an incredibly high-performance custom model. The quality of my illustrations is on a different level from other illustrators.
I didn't understand much about it, but I deeply respected my daughter for pursuing and achieving her childhood dream. However, Ashley seems to be bad at organizing and cleaning, and the room is a complete mess. I can't help but think she inherited the bad traits from her father, though I don't say it out loud. Just then, the doorbell rings. Ashley and I exchange glances. When Ashley answers the door, my husband is standing there, his face bright red.
How many days are you planning to stay here? Get back home and do the housework. We've even received complaints from clients. The paperwork is piling up. You're coming home right now.
My husband shouted as soon as he opened the door, and I was at a loss for words. Ashley gently grabbed my shoulder and moved me behind her, saying, "Step back."
Listen. Mom is never going back to you again.
Huh? Are you out of your mind? Or have you lost your senses? A woman who has spent half her life vacuuming the house can't possibly live after divorcing me. Get ready to go home now.
When my husband tried to grab my arm, I instinctively pulled it back. I shouted, "Don't touch me," in a loud voice, and my husband widened his eyes, his face turning red with anger. I want a divorce. When I said those words, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Ashley immediately hugged me tightly and explained everything to the stunned Robert. I've always been a very meticulous person, good at cleaning and organizing the house. However, this skill was just an extension of my role as a housewife, and I never dreamed it could become a source of income. At Ashley's suggestion, I registered on a website that offers housekeeping services. Over the past few days, I've taken on several housekeeping jobs and received quite high ratings. Ashley, who herself takes on illustration work online, encouraged me to try being a sole proprietor like her. Me, the president of a cleaning company? I laughed a little at the thought, but Ashley was serious about her suggestion.
Starting a company for housekeeping services? Don't underestimate what it takes to maintain a company. Saying you're starting a company just to get a divorce is too simplistic.
It's not that I want to start a company because I want a divorce. I don't want you to deny my potential, I said loudly, stepping away from Ashley's embrace to face my husband. His clenched fists were trembling slightly with anger. He was probably worried about the neighbors seeing him in front of the apartment door. That concern was likely holding back his temper, but it seemed he was reaching his limit. Because I believe in myself, because I finally feel like I can believe in myself, I can finally stand up to you. If I don't divorce you now and pursue my new dream, I will definitely regret it. I said this while tears streamed down my face. I thought that by getting married, I was working hard to support the company he started. Even before we got married, I had experience working in accounting for a large company, and I believed I had been providing various support while deeply understanding the management state of his company. We were supposed to be on this adventure of life together. But somewhere along the way, he forgot. He forgot that this adventure was with me. We stopped calling each other by our names at some point, didn't we? Maybe. For a long time now. We haven't been a married couple, just business partners.
Enough. Get back home and organize the documents. The office is.
I calmly watched my husband as he yelled. I felt like I had said what I needed to say. He grabbed me by the collar and shouted something. All this time, in that cramped office with just the two of us, I thought he would understand someday. Someday. Even if it was just one blunt word, if he had just said thank you, that would have been enough for me. But now, I don't care about that anymore. I thought he might hit me. I was scared, but the thought of overcoming this ordeal and finding a new future for myself made my heart race with excitement. Despite the situation, I found myself laughing. My husband raised his fist to arm height. Was he going to hit me? I thought, but I was sure he wouldn't. If he were the kind of man who would actually hit me, I wouldn't have married him in the first place. He stood there, frozen with his fist raised, glaring at me with cold eyes. Eventually, perhaps a neighbor called the police, as a patrol car stopped nearby and several officers came running, restraining my husband. He didn't resist and quietly complied with the officers, but he kept glaring at me with resentment. I averted my gaze and looked at my hands. They were trembling. Ashley silently took my shaking hand and, with teary eyes, hugged me tightly.
Mom, you were so cool.
Tears were streaming down my face uncontrollably. I chuckled bitterly, thinking there's no way I looked cool like this. But I don't think he'll agree to the divorce. At those words, Ashley flashed a bright smile and pointed to the security camera installed right above the entrance. I don't think that camera was there before I started staying at Ashley's apartment. Ashley had been certain that if I stayed at her apartment, my husband would come to take me back within a few days. So, she had installed the camera to record and capture his usual behavior. Normally, home security cameras only capture video, but using her knowledge from studying electrical engineering, she had added an audio recording function as well. So, my husband's abusive words from earlier were all recorded. Ashley gave me a carefree smile, more genuine than ever. After the police incident and the footage from the security camera proved my husband's behavior as grounds for divorce, it took quite some time, but the divorce was finally finalized. Considering that my husband's business, which he ran alone, would likely struggle without me, I had already explained the situation and apologized to our regular clients who frequently gave us work. Since my husband caused this commotion while running his own business locally, his reputation plummeted. He couldn't handle the paperwork, accounting, or phone calls that I used to manage, and his business started to suffer. Despite repeatedly apologizing and explaining to our clients to prevent such an outcome, my husband's lack of composure affected not only me but also our clients, making it impossible to rectify the situation. I heard from neighbors that he now spends his days buying convenience store meals, looking disheveled. I've been living at Ashley's apartment for quite a long time now. The housekeeping jobs are coming in steadily, and I'm slowly but surely saving money. While starting a company in my name is still a bit in the future, Ashley and I are currently busy looking for a bigger apartment to live in together. As I look out at the park from the apartment window with a sense of calm, I wonder if I've ever had such a peaceful time in my life. Men who live alone become slovenly, while women who live alone flourish, I guess.
What does that mean?
My daughter, who was drawing an illustration on her computer, turned to face me. I sat by the window, feeling the soft breeze on my cheek. Outside the window, the cherry blossoms were in full bloom. Many people had gathered in the park to see the large, pink double cherry blossoms, creating a lively atmosphere. Instead of just drawing illustrations at home, let's go see the cherry blossoms.
No way. You can see the cherry blossoms from the window.
The image Ashley was drawing on her tablet was displayed on the computer screen. It showed the back view of a young woman and a little girl looking up at the cherry blossoms. As I absent-mindedly admired the beautiful digital art she was creating, Ashley said with an embarrassed smile,
It's kind of embarrassing. This illustration will be the cover of a novel that's coming out soon.
"Wow. You get those kinds of requests too. What's the concept behind it?" Ashley continued to talk without stopping her drawing. She explained that it depicted a scene of a little girl looking up at the cherry blossoms with her mother in the park.
Don't you remember? A long time ago, you and I went to that park to see the cherry blossoms together.
Ashley stopped drawing and looked straight at me. I fell silent with my lips slightly parted and quietly said, "I don't remember." There was a few seconds of silence. Ashley turned off her computer, took out a jacket from the closet, and handed one to me and one for herself.
Well then, let's go see the cherry blossoms.
I gently draped the light beige cardigan she handed me over my shoulders. The cherry blossoms in the park, which once felt so distant, now feel very close. The changing seasons, which I had failed to notice before, now seem so beautiful. From now on, I will surely continue to cherish the daily joys that I couldn't remember before.
How did you like this story? Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.